Let me ask you something straight. Why would a woman who carries the universe in her soul settle for a man who only brings chaos to her peace? Think about that. She's not just any woman. She's the kind who moves with purpose, who builds empires with her silence, who knows her worth because she's been carved by the hands of the divine. So tell me, are you even ready for her? Let's get real for a second. You want to know how to attract a woman? First, you need to understand this. She is not some trophy you win after collecting enough points. She's not a checklist, nice body, pretty smile, cooks well. No. A woman worth having is a force of nature. She's the kind of woman who moves through life with intention, who doesn't just exist, but commands the space around her. And if you think you're going to get her by playing the same tired games every other guy plays, you're already losing her attention. See, most men approach attraction all wrong. They think it's about proving themselves, showing off money, status, fake confidence. But a woman who knows her worth, she sees through that in seconds. She's not impressed by the loudest guy in the room. She's drawn to the one who doesn't need to be, the one who carries himself like he's already enough. Because here's the truth, a high-value woman isn't looking for someone to complete her. She's looking for someone who complements her. And if you're not on that level, she will walk right past you without a second glance. I'll tell you why most men fail at this. They think attraction is something you do, a script, a trick, a pickup line. But real attraction, it's something you are. It's in the way you hold yourself when you walk into a room. It's in the way you listen, not just wait for your turn to speak. It's in the way you respect her mind before you ever touch her body. A woman like this doesn't care about your rehearsed charm. She cares about your depth. She wants to know, can you handle her fire? Or will you shrink when she challenges you? Let me break it down even further. You want her attention, stop chasing it. A woman who's truly magnetic isn't won over by desperation. She's won by the man who's so focused on his purpose that he doesn't have time to beg for hers. She's drawn to the man who looks at her and says, I see you, not just the idea of you. Because here's what you're missing. She doesn't need you. She chooses you. And if you're not someone worth choosing, no amount of games or gifts will change that. So ask yourself right now, are you the kind of man she can't ignore or just another option in her inbox? Because the difference isn't in your bank account or your looks, it's in your energy. It's in the way you carry your losses without crumbling. It's in the way you speak about your dreams without apology. It's in the way you respect her time, her mind, her boundaries without acting like she owes you something in return. And here's the hardest truth of all. If you're not ready to match her, she will find someone who is. Not out of cruelty, but because a woman like that knows her value. She's not waiting around for potential. She's looking for proof. So what's yours? Let me tell you something about real confidence. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. You ever notice how the most powerful person in the room is often the quietest? That's not an accident. That's the law. Because when you truly know who you are, you don't feel the need to prove it to anyone. And that right there, that's what separates the men who attract quality women from the boys who chase validation. Think about it. The guy who's constantly talking about his money, his car, his connections, what's he really saying? He's screaming, I don't believe I'm enough without these things. And women, they feel that. They sense insecurity like blood in the water. Meanwhile, the man who sits back, who listens more than he speaks, who carries himself like he's comfortable in his own skin, that man doesn't need to beg for attention, it finds him. Because confidence isn't about what you say, it's about what you don't need to say. Now let's talk about eye contact. This is where most men fail without even realizing it. You ever see a guy who can't hold a woman's gaze, who looks away first, who fidgets, who laughs nervously? That's insecurity leaking out. But the man who looks at her really looks at her without blink, without looking around the room to see who's watching. That's power. That's presence. And that's what pulls her in before you've even said a word. Body language, that's your silent resume. The way you walk into a space, the way you occupy a chair, the way you stand when you're talking to her. Are you leaning in too much? That's needy energy. Are you slouching? That's weak energy. Or are you standing tall, moving slow, taking up space like you belong wherever you are? That's king energy. And women have been biologically programmed to respond to that for thousands of years. Here's the brutal truth. Women can smell desperation. They can sense when you're talking just to fill silence, when you're performing instead of being present, when you're trying to impress instead of just being impressive. And nothing turns a woman off faster than a man who's trying too hard. Because trying hard is the opposite of confidence. But here's the good news. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about revealing who you really are. It's about stripping away all the performative nonsense and standing in your truth. Because real confidence comes from one place, self-respect. When you respect yourself, when you know your worth, when you've done the work to become someone you're proud of, that radiates out of you, and that's irresistible. So ask yourself, when you walk into a room, what energy are you bringing? Are you the guy who needs everyone to notice him, or are you the guy who's so comfortable in his own skin that people can't help but notice? Because here's the choice you're making every single day: to operate from lack or to operate from abundance, to seek validation or to embody value. The decision is yours. But remember, women aren't listening to your words, they're reading your energy. So what's yours saying? And let me break something to you that most men will never understand. Telling a woman she's beautiful is like pointing out that water is wet. She knows. She's heard it a million times before from a million different mouths. And guess what? Those words mean absolutely nothing unless they're coming from a man who sees beyond the surface. You want to truly attract a woman, stop memorizing pickup lines and start developing the ability to see her. Not just her face, not just her body, but her, the way her mind works, the fire in her soul, the dream she's afraid to say out loud. Because here's the reality, the most powerful thing you can ever say to a woman isn't, "You're gorgeous." It's, "I understand you." Think about the last time you had a real conversation with a woman. Not just small talk, not just what do you do for work or where are you from, but a conversation that actually mattered. When was the last time you asked her something that made her pause, something that made her think, "Damn, he actually gets it"? Most men never go there. They stay in the shallow end because it's safe, because they're afraid to dive deeper. But let me tell you something, the shallow end is where you drown. A high quality woman doesn't want to be admired, she wants to be known. She wants a man who can look at her and see the chapters she hasn't written yet, who can listen to her silence and understand it better than her words, who isn't just waiting for his turn to speak, but actually hears her. That's the difference between a boy who wants her attention and a man who earns her respect. And here's where most men fail. They think connection is about talking. It's not. It's about listening, not just with your ears, but with your presence. When she's speaking, are you really there, or are you just planning what you're going to say next? Are you actually curious about who she is, or are you just waiting for the moment you can steer the conversation back to yourself? Women can feel that. They know when you're not really listening. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who makes it all about him. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you made a woman feel seen? Not just looked at, not just complimented, but truly seen. Because that's the secret. That's the moment she starts to let you in. When she realizes you're not just another guy trying to impress her, but a man who actually sees her flaws, fire, and all. That's when walls come down. That's when real connection happens. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about saying the right thing to get her into bed. This is about being the kind of man who values depth over distraction, who understands that real attraction isn't built on flattery. It's built on understanding. The kind of man who doesn't just want to be with her, but wants to know her. So here's your challenge. Next time you're talking to a woman, don't just fill the silence with empty words. Don't just tell her she's beautiful like every other guy. Go deeper. Ask her what she's passionate about. Ask her what keeps her up at night. Ask her what she's afraid of. And then, here's the key. Listen, not to respond, not to impress, but to understand. Because at the end of the day, any man can tell a woman she's pretty. but only a real man can make her feel understood. Let's cut through the bullshit right now. Most men think vulnerability is weakness. They believe that showing emotion makes them less of a man. And that right there, that's exactly why so many of you are struggling to connect with women on anything real. Because here's the truth, a woman doesn't want a stone wall. She doesn't want a robot. She wants a man who's strong enough to feel deeply and brave enough to show it. Think about it. What's more powerful? A man who pretends he doesn't care, who shuts down at the first sign of emotion, who's afraid to say what he really feels, or a man who can look her in the eye and say, "This matters to me," without flinching? A man who isn't afraid to love hard, to commit fully, to say, "I choose you," and mean it with every fiber of his being. That's the kind of strength that pulls a woman in and keeps her there. But let's be clear, this isn't about being emotional for the sake of it. This isn't about dumping your baggage on her or using vulnerability as a tactic. This is about emotional strength, the kind that comes from self-awareness, from knowing who you are and standing firmly in it, the kind of man who can hold space for her emotions without being overwhelmed by his own, who can handle her storms because he's learned to navigate his. That's the balance, that's the sweet spot. Here's where most men get it twisted. They confuse emotional strength with emotional avoidance. They think that being a man means never showing doubt, never admitting fear, never letting her see anything less than perfect. But guess what? Women aren't stupid. They know when you're faking. They can feel when you're holding back. And nothing creates distance faster than a man who refuses to let her in. Real emotional strength is about ownership. It's about saying, "I messed up," without excuses. It's about admitting, "I don't know," when you don't. It's about being able to sit with discomfort, yours and hers, without running away. Because here's the thing, a woman doesn't need you to have all the answers. She needs you to be honest. She needs you to be present. She needs to know that when life gets messy, and it will, you won't bail. You won't shut down. You'll stay, you'll fight, you'll feel. And that's what's truly sexy. Not the tough guy act, not the emotional detachment, but the courage to be fully human in front of her. The willingness to love her out loud, even when it's scary. The ability to look her in the eye and say, "You're worth the risk," and then prove it every damn day. So ask yourself, are you hiding behind a mask of false strength, or are you brave enough to let her see the real you, the one who feels, who fears, who loves with everything he's got? Because that's the man she'll move mountains for. That's the man she'll choose again and again. Let me hit you with a hard truth that most men don't want to hear. Women don't fall in love with potential. They don't commit to maybe someday. A high-value woman looks at your life right now and makes a judgment call. Is this a man who's going somewhere, or is he just taking up space? And brother, if you're not actively leading your own life with purpose, why would she sign up to follow you anywhere? This isn't about being some alpha male stereotype. This is about the raw, undeniable energy you bring to everything you do. When you walk into a room, does your presence say, "I'm here to consume," or "I'm here to contribute"? When you speak about your future, does it sound like wishful thinking or like a man who's already mapping out his next move? Women can smell the difference from a mile away. Leadership isn't about bossing people around. It's about vision. It's about waking up every morning knowing exactly why you're getting out of bed. A woman wants to look at your life and see direction, not just for her, but for yourself first. She needs to know that if she links her life to yours, you won't just drift through the years waiting for something to happen. You'll make things happen. Now let's talk about neediness, the ultimate attraction killer. Nothing that pushes a quality woman away faster than a man who acts like she's his only source of happiness. Women don't want to be your therapist, your motivational coach, or your emotional crutch. They want to be your partner, not your project manager. When you make her the center of your universe before you've built your own gravitational pull, you're not being romantic, you're being irresponsible with your own life. Here is what real leadership looks like in a relationship. You set the tone for how you will be treated by how you treat yourself. You maintain your purpose even when you're head over heels. You make decisions with conviction instead of constantly seeking her approval. You handle conflict with calm authority rather than emotional reactions. You inspire her to be her best self by relentlessly pursuing your own growth. This isn't about controlling her. It's about being so solid in who you are that she feels safe to fully be herself around you. Women crave that stability, not in a boring way, but in a I know this man won't fold when life gets hard way. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you need her to validate you, the more she'll want to be by your side. When she sees you crushing your goals, maintaining your standards, and walking with purpose, regardless of whether she's there or not, that's when she'll choose to walk with you. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. So take a brutal inventory of your life right now. Are you leading or just existing? Are you building something worth following or just hoping she'll lower her standards to meet you where you're at? Because high quality women don't adjust their expectations. They simply wait for the man who meets them. Build a life worth leading, and she'll choose to walk beside you, not because she has to, but because she can't imagine walking any other path. Let me tell you something counterintuitive that most men will never grasp. The moment you stop desperately chasing women is the moment they start noticing you. Not because you're playing games, because you've finally become the kind of man worth chasing. That shift from needy to self-contained, from validation-seeking to purpose-driven is the most powerful transformation you'll ever make in your dating life. Think about the energy you're carrying right now. When you approach women, are you coming from a place of, please like me? Or here I am, take it or leave it? That distinction changes everything. Women can smell neediness like last week's gym clothes repels them at a biological level. But a man who's so focused on his mission that he doesn't have time to beg for attention, that energy is magnetic. This isn't about pretending not to care. This is about genuinely having more important things to care about. When your life is full, when you're consumed by your purpose, your growth, your passions, you stop putting women on pedestals. And ironically, that's when they start seeing you as someone worth reaching for. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Women don't want to be your everything. They want to be an exciting addition to a life that's already rich and fulfilling. Let's break down why this works. Scarcity versus abundance mindset. The guy who thinks women are rare prizes approaches with sweaty palms and rehearsed lines. The man who knows there are amazing women everywhere interacts with relaxed confidence. Guess which one gets better results? The power of indifference, not apathy, but the quiet assurance that you'll be fine whether she says yes or no. That unshakable self-worth is irresistible. Focus creates attraction. When you're deeply engaged in building your best life, women sense that passion and want to be part of it. Your purpose becomes your most attractive quality. Most men sabotage themselves by making women their priority before they've prioritized themselves. They skip the gym to text her back immediately. They cancel plans with friends when she might be free. They mold their personality to what they think she wants. And women, they feel that lack of backbone instantly. Here's what happens when you flip the script. You stop responding immediately to every message because you're actually busy doing important work. You maintain your standards instead of lowering them for whoever shows interest. You walk away from mixed signals because your time is too valuable to waste. You become selective rather than grateful for any attention. And the miracle, the less available you are for nonsense, the more high quality women appear in your life. Not because you're manipulating the situation, but because you fundamentally change the energy you're putting out into the world. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to get because you're genuinely caught up in building something extraordinary. When a woman looks at your life and sees you're someone who moves with intention, who respects his own time, who won't drop everything for a maybe, that's when real attraction begins. So ask yourself today, is my life so compelling that a woman would feel lucky to be part of it? Or am I still trying to convince women to give me a chance? Because that answer determines everything.